I have activated my wildcard ahead of game week 35, but surprisingly, I have no Liverpool players in this draft. In this video, I'm going to show you the best triple ups from the likes of Man United, Man City, and Chelsea, and of course, tell you the players that I have avoided. As always, make sure you drop a like, smash that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay, so first up, before we build a wildcard draft, we need to actually acknowledge the teams that we want to be taking players from, and realistically, this is all you need to know. I don't think we need to buy any players between now and the end of the season outside of these teams. And ideally, these teams are just perfect because they are some of the top teams in the league and they have some of the best assets. So we're not building a wildcard with players from the likes of Luton, Burnley, Sheffield United. We're actually picking some top FPL assets here. So as you can see, Chelsea top of the list. And even though Chelsea are the most unpredictable team in the league, I just think we have to go with them. At least a double up, but likely a triple up. We have a double in 35, a double in 37, and two really good single game weeks either side of them. So, of course, I'll come on to the best triple Chelsea in a minute. Spurs are the same situation. Yes, the Liverpool game isn't ideal in game week 36, and I would say the doubles are actually not great, but whenever a team doubles and doubles again, we have to double up at least on them. So again, Spurs need to be a priority, especially ahead of game week 35 alongside Chelsea with this double game week. Newcastle, another team that are really high on the radar, especially with the Sheffield United game in game week 35. I think a double up is absolutely imperative, if not a triple up. And the double in game week 37, I think the Brighton game is really good. Obviously, the United game could be anything with how ropey they are defensively. Brighton is one that I'm currently avoiding, spoiler alert. However, I do think you could bring him in as a bit of a differential. If you need to save some money, a Van Hecken defence could be a good option, or maybe a punt on one of their midfielders. But at the time of recording, even though Brighton are an option, I just don't see a way of getting them in our teams, as no option is really standing out this season. The last few teams we need to consider, Man City 100% need to be in our wildcard. They double in game week 37, and they just have great fixtures either side of that double. So the likes of Haaland and double up in maybe the defence or midfield is the route to go for. Again, I will reveal the best players to go for in my wildcard team. Man United are the really tricky one right now because, yes, they are really hard to predict, but the fixtures are really good. I think the double is okay. And I think the likes of Bruno Fernandes are a brilliant differential. Defence is quite hard to invest in, but I also think there are some differentials that we can pick. So United, think of them what you will. They need to be in your wildcard team. Now, Liverpool and Arsenal are the really interesting ones here. As I've spoken about, I don't have any Liverpool in this team. And when you look at the fixtures coming up, I think there easily could be holes in here for the likes of Mo Salah. West Ham away are really poor defensively. Spurs have their injury concerns. Villa is always a tough place to go, but they finish the season with Wolves. Now, from my perspective right now, building a wildcard team for game week 35 and beyond, once I look at the teams I have to double or triple up on, Chelsea, Spurs, Newcastle, City, Man United, it's very difficult to squeeze in these Liverpool assets who are always so expensive. And for that reason, I think just avoiding Liverpool for the next 3 game weeks and then saving yourself a transfer for game week 38 to bring in maybe a Diaz if you can afford it or a Trent in defence is the route to go for. Can Liverpool hurt you over this period? 100%. But is there rotation in the forward line? Yes, there is. And is there an underperformance right now in the likes of Mo Salah? There is. So for that reason, I think we avoid Liverpool, but obviously there are risks if you do that. And the same's going to apply to Arsenal. Now, I do have one Arsenal player in my team, but I also think you could just avoid him in general. I don't think Arsenal are necessarily like free scoring like they were off the back of that Dubai trip that they had. Spurs away is always a tough game. Bournemouth is a plum fixture, but then United away is always a tricky game, and then they finish the season with Everton. And in the same situation as Liverpool players, maybe we could just wait until game week 38 to pick the best option from each team if we provide ourselves with 2 free transfers. So that's a bit of a roundup on the fixtures. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Let's get into this wildcard draft. Okay, so first up the goalkeepers, and I can't lie, this is probably one of the toughest positions I've had building in this wildcard team alongside the defenders. So I have gone for Man City's Ederson. I really like Gvardiol in the defence, but after seeing Nathan Ake return in the FA Cup semi-final, I think that maybe cast some doubts on Gvardiol's game time between now and the end of the season. And when we're building a wildcard team in preparation for a bench boost in game week 37, I do need to remind you, I am bench boosting in game week 37, then we want the players who are going to get guaranteed game time, and Ederson is the only one from a Man City defensive perspective who I think plays between now and then. Could Ortega come in? I think he could, but I also think maybe Ortega is going to be the goalkeeper for the FA Cup. So for that very reason, I'm pretty confident on Ederson's game time between now and then. Vicario is the other goalkeeper that I've gone for. Now remember, Spurs defensively are pretty woeful, but they do double in 35 and they double in 37. With the injury to Udogie right now, who was the other option I liked in defence, I don't really love other Spurs defenders outside of Pedro Porro. So I've gone for Vicario in goal. Now, this could easily be Petrovic of Chelsea. This could be Onana of Man United. But currently leaning towards this goalkeeper combination. And when I show you how the team would look in game week 35 to 38, I think they rotate quite well as being great bench boost options. But let's be real, goalkeepers this season have been few and far between. So I don't think we need to stress too much about the goalkeepers. It's more about if you're blocking yourself from brilliant third options in the outfield positions. Next up, the defenders, and similar to the goalkeeper situation, I've actually really struggled to pick 5 defenders here. Now, Fabian Schär is currently in. That could easily be downgraded to Dan Burn. That could upgrade to Kieran Trippier. But I think Schär offers the attacking potential that you always want from a defender. The guaranteed game time and, of course, the fixtures with a great fixture this week and a double in game week 37. But that one could change depending on the availability of other Newcastle defenders. Currently, Gabriel's in. Now, this is the only single game week player in my team, and he would actually get benched for game week 35, but I'm looking at the other defenders, and I just don't really know where I want to go with this position. So this one's currently up in the air, but I would play Gabriel in game week 36, for example, which would cover off against other managers who have Arsenal investment. And again, we need to remember, Arsenal are the best defence in the league by some distance. So it's not a bad thing that even though you have a player who has a single game week throughout the rest of the season, is playing for the best defence. So Gabriel is currently in, but I do understand that this could easily change. That could be maybe a double up in the Man United defence and give myself an additional fixture. But 2 games for Man United versus Arsenal's 1, I wouldn't even be surprised if he was to outscore any other double game week defender. So he's currently in, and I will show you later how that kind of manipulates throughout my team. Pedro Porro's in. Now, I'm hoping with the Udogie injury that Spurs almost go a little bit different in their setup and progress Pedro Porro into more offensive positions and maybe revert back to maybe a back 3 in attacking phases. This could really enhance Pedro Porro as an option between now and the end of the season. And similar to the Vicario situation, I'm not expecting clean sheets from Spurs, but having a double in 35 and a double in 37, just really difficult to ignore the Spurs options. And going for the double defence is kind of reflective of why I don't have confidence in their attack. I think they're a great offensive team, but I'm not seeing enough from Maddison right now to justify him coming into the team. I think Brennan Johnson is a great option, but I just think there are better midfielders in the game who give me guaranteed game time. For that reason, the only way I think I can triple up on Spurs is to go double defence. Diego Dalot's in. I really like him at 5.2 million. Do I trust the Man United defence? Absolutely not. But they have the fixtures, they have the double in 37, and I think it's just a great way of going a little bit different because I don't think managers who are not wildcarding will be able to go to Man United defence. So he is currently in. And last up's going to be Gusto. Now, as I mentioned, you could go for Petrovic in goal as your Chelsea coverage, and I think he will be the goalkeeper between now and the end of the season. But I just look at players who give me the maximum upside, and I think Gusto could easily outscore Petrovic between now and the end of the season. Yes, Reece James is back in training. If we were to get a positive update, then maybe Reece James will be back for game week 36. That might cast some doubts about Gusto, but as of right now, he is the best Chelsea defender. He offers attacking potential, and I do think his game time is pretty locked in. So this is going to be the defence for now. I will show you later the players that I basically deem as locked in this team, and the defenders are definitely not one of those. Moving into the midfielders, and this was a lot easier than the goalkeepers and defence. I think this team just picks itself. And before people maybe get in the comments and say, oh, Nacho, this is so boring. Sometimes actually just having template players, but having all of them is actually a differential thing in itself. You'll probably see a lot of managers out there with maybe 3 of these midfielders, but having all 5 combined, even though it seems very template, is actually a differential in itself, having the combination of these. So Phil Foden, really difficult to look past anyone else in this Man City midfield. I know Kevin De Bruyne's come into a little bit of form, but at his price range right now, I just can't really justify picking him over Phil Foden. Again, if we see a slight change in the City formational structure and Phil Foden's game time is a little bit more at risk, then he will obviously be a problem. But right now, I just don't see that happening between now and the end of the season. Son's still the best Spurs option in this team. Yes, Richarlison could be an option, but I just think you pay the extra for Son, who is playing as a number 9 at the time of recording. And again, a double in 35, a double in 37. Having at least one Spurs attacker is essential. I'd rather go for the one that I know absolutely is locked in for game time. Cole Palmer, I don't really have to talk about this one. Again, double 35, double 37, joint top goal scorer in the league. Not much more else needs to be said. Bruno Fernandes, for me, is locked in. 8.3 million. He's in good form right now. If United do well, he is absolutely at the heart of it. He offers guaranteed game time, potential penalties as well. I think he is a brilliant differential. And again, a player a lot of managers who are not wildcarding might struggle to get to. And I think he is just a fantastic option. And historically, he has always been a good FPL option. And it might actually be the first time that I bring him into my team. So I'm actually quite excited to have Bruno for the back end. Now, the last spot is up for grabs right now. Previously, I had Garnacho in this position, and I do think his game time is great between now and the end of the season. I think it offers really good potential, but I've currently lent towards Gordon. This guy has just absolutely been Mr. Consistent throughout the season. Yes, the home games have been where he's really reaped the rewards, but Newcastle still have decent home games, and I do like him. And when I look at the budget that we have available, I have the money to spend on Anthony Gordon, and I do back the Newcastle attack. We've seen it week in, week out with the combination of him and Isak, and I really like Harvey Barnes as a bit of a differential, but right now, this midfield 5 for me is just locked in. I don't see me going anywhere else unless some injury news or rotation risk comes out between now and the deadline. And last up, we have the forwards, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Nicholas Jackson has made the wildcard team. Honestly, he is the most frustrating player ever. He is very similar to Darwin Núñez, where you're going to be pulling your hair out owning him as an FPL option. But when I look at the fixtures for Chelsea, the double in 35, the double in 37, the great single game weeks, and I look at his game time, he is playing every single minute for Chelsea. And while he is frustrating, while he literally misses countless big chances, I think he just has to be in this team on the fact that he plays every single minute. Is he going to frustrate me? 100%. But I also do think he has the capability of a double-digit return in some of these fixtures. So for that reason, he is going to be in just because of those double game weeks. Erling Haaland, I know he's been a little bit out of form, but with the double in 37 and the great fixtures, he is a yellow flag right now. So we do need to monitor that situation. If he's ruled out for game week 34 and he could be for 35, we could maybe take a swing at another player in the forward line with a plan to bring him back in. But for me, I'd rather just have him in the team and just accept what will be beyond this point. But we should get some updates regarding his injury between now and the deadline. And last up is going to be Alexander Isak. This guy has been locked in for the last few weeks in my wildcard plans. The only thing that's cast in doubt right now is the return of Callum Wilson to full training. Now, don't get me wrong, Isak is probably in the form of his life right now, and I don't see him coming out of the team, but we could see slightly reduced minutes. Remember, when Callum Wilson and Isak were together, both fit, we did see situations where they rotated, or Isak come off after 70, or he moved out to the left at times. I don't think that's ideal for Isak, but right now, with the fixtures coming up and the form that he's in, I just think it's impossible to look past Isak. So this is the wildcard team right now. Again, I'm pretty confident on a lot of these positions. Let me show you the positions I basically deem locked and where the rotation could be between now and the deadline. So based on what I've spoken about with players that I think are just kind of locked in unless we get any sort of negative news about injuries, the players here that you can see are boxed off, for me, are locked in. Dalot, Foden, Son, Palmer, Bruno Fernandes, Jackson, Haaland, Isak. Now, as I've spoken about, the defenders for me are just really hard to predict. Shah would be locked in, but if Kieran Trippier is past fit, maybe we could go there. That's the only reason, but I definitely will have a Newcastle defender. Gabriel, he's the one that probably could rotate just because he has a single game week. I might be tempted just to bring in a double game weeker for the sake of the fixture. Porro isn't locked in just because I hate the Spurs defence, and I could possibly go for a different defender and then change Anthony Gordon to Brennan Johnson, but I do think I will land on Pedro Porro for that defence. And Gusto, the only reason he's not locked in is just because of the risk of Reece James maybe returning. Also, we could go for the combination of going for Petrovic in goal or Onana and get myself a little bit more Man United coverage. And the goalkeepers, again, I'm pretty locked on Edison, but if Gavardio looks like he is locked in for game time, he could potentially be the defensive coverage. So that's just a little bit of an idea on who is locked in the team. Pretty confident on this wildcard draft, as I said, but let me know in the comments, are there any players that I'm missing that should be in this team? Okay, so last up, just a quick visualization on how the team would look week in, week out. Now, I'm not going to put any transfers in here because I can't lie. When you wildcard, sometimes you just don't really know what direction you're going to take the team, because the team that you pick is kind of the best possible players that you can own. So obviously having the transfers later on is probably just to cover yourself for any potential injuries later down the line. So if we were to land on the team that we've spoken about, the team would look like this for game week 35. Shout out to FPL.team for the transfer planner here. In terms of the bench, it is ridiculously good, but of course we can't use a bench boost in the same week as a wild card, but it only makes sense to go for the doublers. So having Phil Foden on the bench, that could easily be replaced with Anthony Gordon, but the form that Gordon is in when he plays at home, I just think it's impossible to bench Gordon. So the team would look like this, ridiculously strong, triple Chelsea and triple Spurs for their double game weeks. Moving into game week 36, always when I wildcard, I want to roll the transfer the following week to give myself 2 free transfers for bench boost game week 37. But again, the team looks really strong in this week. We've got Edison, we have a good home game. The defence looks great, and that even includes benching someone like Diego Dallo away against Crystal Palace. Midfield looks good. Son away against Liverpool doesn't look great on paper, but I actually think that's a good fixture for Son in general. And the forward line looks great. So no surprises here. Obviously, I am missing a little bit of Aston Villa, a little bit of Liverpool and Arsenal, but I don't see enough here to justify me ripping up my team to bring in those players, because when we come into game week 37, remember, I will be bench boosting and the team looks so damn good. Now, of course, we do have the glaring issue of Gabriel in a single game week, and it's not a good game week. So I could, in this position, maybe use one of my free transfers to get rid of Gabriel for a different player. Maybe I'll just go for another Man United defender, for example, and get myself that extra fixture. But whatever happens, I need to make sure that I do not use both free transfers, because I have to give myself 2 transfers in game week 38, because when we come into game week 38, the team looks really strong, don't get me wrong, but if I come down here to the fixtures, you will see in this column, Arsenal have a brilliant fixture at home against Everton. I feel like I want somebody in that attack. And the other one is going to be Liverpool at home against Wolves. We could be in a situation where the title is being decided on this day, and not having any investment in those attacking areas is a little bit scary. So whatever happens, I need 2 free transfers in this week. And for example, what I could do is maybe do Bruno Fernandes to a Bukayo Saka as an option. That could then give me the Arsenal coverage. And then Liverpool is just all about who is in form in that moment. I would love to go Mo Salah, but it requires so much surgery to this team. So something that I could do, for example, if I wanted to change it up, would be get rid of Phil Foden, but that doesn't seem right. I could get rid of Son, but again, that doesn't seem right. So as I said, I would love to sit here and tell you exactly what I'm doing week in, week out. But I think things change between now and the end of the season. The important thing is giving yourself the free transfers to be flexible week in, week out. And that is going to require rolling your transfer in game week 36 and giving yourself 2 free transfers in game week 38 to target Arsenal and Liverpool. Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up today's Game Week 35 Wildcard Team video. This is always the exciting part of the season where we're using our chips for 35 and 37. So fingers crossed we can have 4 green arrows to finish the season strong. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And as always, have an amazing day and I'll see you soon. Take care. Cheers.